Hello everyone and welcome to this week's episode of Sport Elite. And in this week's episode, we're going to be talking about some of the best offensive and defensive players in the Swedish Super Series for 2023. Starting the list off at the quarterback position, we have Mark Pappas, who is the returning quarterback for the Stockholm Mean Machines. Since coming to the league in 2022, he's been one of the more consistent quarterbacks in the Super Series. And after putting up an MVP-type season in 2022, Pappas really had to live up to the hype in 2023, which he did. With over 1,600 passing yards, 13 touchdowns, 80 rushing yards, and 1 rushing touchdown, Pappas was able to win back-to-back Quarterback of the Year trophies, as well as a Swedish National Championship. With the rumor stating that the Stockholm Mean Machines are aiming for the ELF in the near future, it seems as if they may have found their franchise quarterback. Moving to the running back position, voted as the best running back in the Super Series 2023, playing for Örebro Black Knights, Kasper Vedberg. Kasper is a player that has experience playing in Europe, and it showed with his play in the Super Series. As one of the more physical running backs in Sweden, Kasper was able to accumulate 394 rushing yards, 2 touchdowns, an average of 4.1 yards per carry, and a long of 32 yards. He's definitely a running back to keep an eye on in 2024. Now moving to the receiver position. Anton Blomgren putting together another great season here in 2023, as he remains to be one of the top players in the Super Series. It's definitely not easy to stand out in the Super Series among all the other skilled players, but with 510 yards on the season and 3 receiving touchdowns, Anton Blomgren did that. Moving over to the defensive side of the ball, we have the linebacker position. Matthias Eriksson has been terrorizing offenses for years, and 2023 was no different. As the anchor of the Karlstad defense, Matthias is one of the most all-around linebackers you'll see, good in coverage and able to blitz the quarterback and stop runs. After leading the league in tackles, he was voted the linebacker of the year. But not only that, he was such a difference maker on the defensive side of the ball, he was awarded the most valuable player in the Super Series for 2023. When talking about D-line, you have to involve Tears of Royal Crowns into the conversation. And of those, Jatta is a name that stands out. As a player who's been moved around at a bunch of different positions, it seems like he's found a home at the D-line position. His athleticism and his speed is what sets Jatta apart from the rest of the D-line in Sweden. And with that skill set, he's been able to total 6.5 tackles with 3 sacks on the season, making him the sack leader for 2023. Next up, the defensive backs. And after a solid 2022 season, Rory Kelly was signed quickly by Karlstad for the 2023 season, where they hoped he would continue to be a difference maker. And that he was. Ending the season with 30 tackles and tied for first place with 2 interceptions, Rory was awarded the Defensive Back of the Year award for 2023. Thanks for joining us on today's episode where we highlighted some of the best players in the Swedish Super Series. To make sure you're always up to date with the info and the news happening in the Swedish Super Series, make sure you subscribe to Sport Elite. See you next time.